Maya Johnson had always carried music inside her body, as if every step she took carried a rhythm that others could not hear. At just 18, she had danced her way through childhood kitchens, through church gatherings where her grandmother clapped along, through high school gymnasiums where crowds cheered louder for her moves than for the game that had just finished. Dance was not something she did for applause alone. It was the language her soul spoke when words failed. When she was accepted to a well-regarded college, she told herself this was the moment her dream could finally stretch its wings. The school's dance program was famous across the state for producing professionals who went on to Broadway and international tours, and Maya wanted nothing more than to be part of that world. She had worked late nights at a grocery store to save money, sacrificed outings with friends, and practiced in her small bedroom until her mother begged her to rest. She believed that dedication and talent would open doors. The morning of her audition arrived crisp and bright, and Maya walked across campus with her heart pounding against her ribs. She wore her simplest black leotard and tights, hair pulled into a bun, bag slung over her shoulder with a water bottle and a pair of worn ballet shoes inside. Around her, the campus buzzed with students hurrying to classes, coffee cups in hand, laughter spilling from the sidewalks. Maya walked with a different kind of urgency, the knowledge that this moment could define her place in the next 4 years, maybe in her life. When she reached the grand dance building, its glass doors gleaming in the morning sun, she paused for a breath, then pushed inside. The lobby was filled with other hopefuls, most of them chatting and stretching, their sleek hair and expensive warm-up clothes making Maya suddenly conscious of her own faded tights and second-hand shoes. She reminded herself that ability mattered more than appearance. Her mother had told her just that morning, "Baby, talent doesn't come with a price tag. You go and show them what you got." Maya repeated those words in her head as she signed her name on the audition list and waited to be called. When the doors to the main studio opened, a tall man in a crisp shirt and blazer stepped out. His hair was slicked back, and his sharp eyes scanned the waiting dancers with impatience. This was Mr. Whitaker, the program manager. His reputation was known even before she came, strict, unyielding, and convinced he alone knew who had the potential to succeed. He called names briskly, and one by one, dancers filed in. When Maya's name came, her hands trembled, but she lifted her chin and walked with quiet dignity into the large studio. The walls were mirrored from floor to ceiling, the polished wood floor gleaming under bright lights. A panel of instructors sat at a long table with Mr. Whitaker at the center, his pen tapping on a clipboard. "Next," he said, flatly, without looking at her. Maya stepped forward, introduced herself with a smile, and moved to the center of the floor. The pianist, an older woman with soft eyes, gave her a small nod before placing her fingers on the keys. Music filled the room, and Maya began to dance. Every movement carried the weight of her hopes, the arch of her arms, the bend of her knees, the precise point of her toes. She felt the music flow through her like fire, her body speaking in shapes and rhythm. For a few minutes, she forgot the panel, forgot her nerves. She was only herself, pure and unguarded. But when she finished, silence followed. The instructors whispered among themselves, while Mr. Whitaker stared at her with an expression that made her stomach drop. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he spoke words that struck like a slap. "Get out." Maya blinked. Excuse me?" "You heard me," he said, his voice cold, dismissive. "This program is not for you. We need serious dancers, not—" His eyes traveled over her, pausing just long enough for Maya to understand everything he didn't say aloud. "Not this." The other panelists shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke up. Maya felt her throat tighten, heat flooding her cheeks. She wanted to demand an explanation, to shout that she had worked hard for this, that her talent was real. But the weight of his gaze pinned her in place, and humiliation crushed her words. Slowly, she picked up her bag and walked out of the studio, each step heavy, the sound of the door closing behind her echoing in her chest. Out in the hallway, she stood frozen, tears threatening but refusing to fall. Other dancers waiting their turn glanced at her curiously, some whispering, others smirking as if they had expected it. Maya forced herself to keep moving, down the hall, out of the building, into the sunlight that now felt too bright. She walked until she found an empty bench under a tree and sat, her body shaking. For the first time in years, she doubted whether she belonged in the world she had dreamed of. Her phone buzzed in her bag. It was her mother. "How did it go, baby?" the text read. Maya stared at the screen, her chest tight. She couldn't bring herself to answer. Instead, she locked the phone and pressed it against her leg, letting the silence grow heavier. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the ground where no one could see her shame. Yet even as pain washed over her, something deeper stirred. A small voice inside whispered that she could not let this be the end. She had known rejection before, teachers who said she wasn't right for a part, classmates who sneered when she danced during pep rallies, strangers who looked at her skin before they looked at her talent. Each time, she had kept moving. But this was different. This was her college, the place where she was supposed to be given a chance to grow. The sting of being denied, dismissed, and humiliated threatened to crush her, but a spark of anger fought back. For the next few days, Maya drifted through campus like a ghost. She went to her general education classes, took notes without hearing the lectures, and returned to her dorm each evening with an ache in her chest. Her roommate, a cheerful business major named Lila, noticed the change but didn't press. "You'll tell me when you're ready," Lila said kindly one night as she folded laundry. Maya nodded, grateful for the space. At night, when the campus grew quiet, Maya found herself drawn back to the dance building. She discovered that one of the side studios was often left unlocked after hours. Slipping inside, she would close the door, drop her bag, and let the music from her phone fill the empty space. There, alone with the mirrors and the silence, she danced. Sometimes she cried while moving, her tears streaking down her cheeks as her body spoke in shapes and rhythm. For a few minutes, she forgot the panel, forgot her nerves. She was only herself, pure and unguarded. Still, whispers followed her across campus. Word spread quickly among the art students that Maya had been told to leave the audition. Some repeated Whitaker's words with cruel amusement, others offered half-hearted sympathy that only deepened her humiliation. She began to walk with her head down, avoiding eye contact, though part of her bristled with the urge to prove every one of them wrong. One evening, as she finished a late practice in the hidden studio, she heard clapping. Startled, Maya turned to see a young man leaning against the doorway. He was tall, with messy dark hair and sweatpants that marked him as a dancer, too. "Sorry," he said quickly. "Didn't mean to scare you. Wow, you're really good." Maya wiped her face with her sleeve, embarrassed. "I thought the studio was empty." "It usually is," he admitted, stepping inside. "I come here sometimes, too, when I don't want anyone watching. I'm Andre." "Maya," she said cautiously. "I know. Word got around about, you know." His expression softened. "What Whitaker did was wrong. He's like that. He's got his favorites, and anyone else doesn't get a fair chance." Maya's chest tightened. "So it's not just me?" Andre shook his head. "Not at all. I've seen him shut out people who didn't fit his picture of what a dancer should look like, but that doesn't mean you don't belong here. Honestly, you're one of the most powerful dancers I've ever seen." The words hit her like water on dry soil. Someone believed in her. Someone saw her. She managed a small smile. "Thanks." From then on, Maya and Andre began meeting in the studio at night. They practiced together, shared routines, pushed each other to try harder moves. He told her about underground dance showcases held in the city where students from different colleges and independent crews gathered to perform. "You should come," he urged. "Those places don't care about Whitaker's approval. They care about passion." Maya hesitated at first, afraid to step into a new spotlight. But the idea grew inside her, feeding the spark that Whitaker had tried to extinguish. Maybe she didn't need the program's permission to be a dancer. Maybe she just needed to dance. The first showcase she attended was held in a converted warehouse, the walls painted with graffiti, lights strung overhead like stars. The air buzzed with energy as dancers warmed up, friends cheered, and a DJ spun beats that vibrated through the floor. Maya felt both nervous and exhilarated. When her turn came, she stepped onto the makeshift stage, heart pounding, and let the music carry her. The crowd roared, clapping, shouting encouragement, their energy feeding her movements. For a few minutes, she forgot the panel, forgot her nerves. She was only herself, pure and unguarded. That night, as she walked back to campus with Andre, she felt lighter. "I needed that," she admitted, smiling. "See? You don't need them. You've got something real. Don't let anyone take it away." But even as she found new spaces to shine, Maya knew the fight wasn't over. Spring blossomed across campus with bursts of color in the trees and the sound of laughter spilling across the green lawns, but Maya's world was still consumed by dance. The festival had elevated her name beyond whispers of mockery. Now people stopped her in the library to ask about her routine. Professors mentioned her in passing as an example of perseverance, and even strangers on the bus into the city sometimes recognized her from the showcases. Yet with recognition came a new weight: expectation. People now looked at her not as a struggling outsider, but as someone who was supposed to lead, to inspire, to succeed. The pressure curled around her shoulders like a heavy cloak. She could not afford to falter. Whitaker's disapproval simmered in the background of everything she did. He had not spoken to her directly since the festival, but she caught him watching her sometimes, his sharp eyes full of disdain. The official program dancers followed his lead, their hostility subtle but pointed. Whispers when she entered the cafeteria, deliberate shoves in crowded hallways, laughter when she walked past the dance building. She wanted to shrug it off, but the constant reminders of her exclusion stung. She often wondered what it would feel like to walk into that building without fear, to practice openly, to be guided by instructors who could refine her raw energy into mastery. Yet she reminded herself that she had found another path, one not bound by Whitaker's approval. Andre became her anchor through the storm. They trained together relentlessly, sometimes until dawn, collapsing onto the studio floor with laughter after hours of grueling drills. Their friendship deepened into something that felt unspoken but powerful, a closeness born from shared sweat, pain, and triumph. Sometimes Maya caught herself watching him with a softness that surprised her, wondering if he felt it too. But neither of them spoke it aloud. The dance was enough for now. Opportunities began to bloom from unexpected places. A choreographer who had seen her at the festival reached out, inviting her to participate in a city performance project blending different cultural dance forms. Maya hesitated, overwhelmed by the thought of balancing yet another commitment, but Andre urged her to accept. "This is what you've been fighting for," he told her. "Doors are opening. Walk through them." The rehearsals for the project were unlike anything she had experienced. Dancers from diverse backgrounds gathered, each bringing their own traditions: flamenco, bhangra, tap, contemporary, African dance. The studio vibrated with energy as they shared steps, rhythms, and stories. Maya found herself both intimidated and exhilarated, fumbling at first, but slowly finding her place in the mosaic. She poured herself into the work, discovering that her own style, born from blending ballet discipline, modern expressiveness, and the raw energy of hip-hop, fit seamlessly into the fusion. The choreographer praised her adaptability and passion, and for the first time, Maya felt not just like a student, but like a peer among serious artists. Yet the more she succeeded outside the college program, the more Whitaker's hostility sharpened. Rumors reached her through whispers that he had spoken to administrators, questioning her discipline,
suggesting she was distracting other students, even trying to block her from using campus facilities. None of his efforts succeeded fully, but the message was clear. He wanted her gone. Some nights, the weight of his animosity pressed so heavily on her that she almost broke down. But then she would step into the studio, feel the music fill her veins, and remember why she endured. Her mother remained her quiet source of strength. Maya called her one evening after rehearsal, exhaustion dripping from her voice. "Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it. Every time I rise, Whitaker tries to push me back down. I'm so tired, Mama." Her mother's voice was gentle but firm. "Baby, worth isn't decided by men like him. It's decided by how much you love what you're doing. And I hear that love in every word you speak about dance. Don't let his hate steal your joy." Maya wiped tears from her cheeks, clutching the phone. "I'll try." "You'll do more than try. You'll shine, because that's who you are." Bolstered by those words, Maya threw herself even deeper into her work. The performance project in the city drew crowds, the audience cheering wildly for the eclectic blend of styles. Critics praised the daring fusion, highlighting Maya's magnetic stage presence in reviews. She was stunned to see her name in print, her photograph alongside established dancers. For a girl who had once been told to get out, the validation felt surreal. But her journey was far from smooth. Balancing classes, jobs, rehearsals, and showcases left her drained. Some nights she fell asleep on her textbooks. Others, she skipped meals just to make time for practice. Andre worried, urging her to rest, but Maya shook her head. "If I slow down, I'll lose everything I've built," she argued. Still, deep down, she feared he might be right. Her body ached constantly, injuries piling up, and one night in rehearsal, her ankle twisted badly on a landing. Pain shot through her and she collapsed with a cry. Andre rushed to her side, panic in his eyes. "That's it, Maya. You have to stop. You'll destroy yourself." Tears blurred her vision as she clutched her ankle. "I can't stop. Not now. Not when I'm finally being seen." "You're more than this moment," Andre said firmly. "If you push until you break, there won't be any future left for you." Reluctantly, she agreed to rest, though the guilt gnawed at her. For a week, she limped around campus, frustration eating her alive, as others practiced. But the forced pause also gave her clarity. She realized she had been running herself ragged, chasing recognition so desperately that she had forgotten the joy that had once driven her. The injury healed slowly, and when she finally returned to the studio, she approached dance with a renewed sense of balance. She promised herself she would not let ambition destroy the very love that made her fight. The spring semester drew to a close, and with it came whispers of another opportunity. An international summer intensive in New York, with auditions open to students from across the country. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to train with world-class instructors, to be seen on a global stage. The application process was fierce, requiring not only auditions, but recommendations. Maya knew Whitaker would never support her, but she had others now. Her choreographer from the City Project, Andre, and even a professor from her general studies who admired her resilience. With their help, she submitted her application, pouring every ounce of hope into her video audition. Weeks later, as she sat studying in the library, an email notification popped up. With trembling hands, she opened it. "Congratulations, Maya Johnson. You have been accepted to the New York International Summer Intensive." She clapped her hand over her mouth to stifle a cry, tears spilling down her cheeks. Andre, across the table, saw her expression and grinned. "You got in, didn't you?" She nodded wildly, and he whooped so loudly the librarian shushed them. The news spread quickly, stunning even those who once doubted her. While Whitaker's team boasted of regional trophies, Maya had secured a place on a global stage. For once, even her detractors had to acknowledge her success. Whitaker himself said nothing, but his silence was louder than words. Maya carried her acceptance like armor, proof that no one's rejection could define her destiny. Summer arrived, and with it, the trip to New York. The city overwhelmed her at first, the roar of traffic, the sea of people, the towering skyscrapers. But inside the dance studios, she felt at home. The instructors pushed her harder than ever before, dissecting every movement, demanding perfection. She stumbled, faltered, even cried in frustration, but she also grew in ways she had never imagined. She learned from dancers from around the world, absorbing their techniques, their cultures, their fire. Every day she left the studio battered and exhilarated, her heart expanding with the realization that she was part of something vast and beautiful. On the final night of the intensive, the students performed for an audience of industry professionals, agents, and choreographers. Maya's nerves threatened to consume her, but as the music began, she remembered every step that had brought her here, from the humiliation of being told to get out, to the roar of underground showcases, to the festival crowd, to the passion of her performance. She danced not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been dismissed, for every dreamer told they didn't belong. Her performance blazed with passion, earning a standing ovation that left her breathless. Afterwards, as she sat backstage trembling with exhaustion, an agent approached her with a card. "You have